Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook with your host Edward McQueen and April Garner Davis.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Good evening. Welcome to the program this evening. And we've still got some great music that's playing in the background, but I love it. I love it. Good evening, April. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Fantastic. I love the music. Yeah, so this evening, ladies and gentlemen, you know, the issue, well, let me date you back to October 22nd, which is what was referred to me, of this year, about the action taken by the South Carolina Department of Social Services. We issued a notice that the SNAP benefits, supplemental nutrition program, I guess that's what it means, would not be paid in November due to the government shutdown. Now, I don't know what action that has been taken since the last time this had occurred, but we'll get the lowdown on that today. And but we need to know what that delay has caused, what kind of impact it has caused on the South Carolina citizens. Okay, so we talked in the number of April, I believe, 260,000 households who had almost an immediate impact. And so we're going to get onto that also. But today with us to take us further into that but she's going to join, kind of enjoying the discussion on this. Is we have Miss Kissy Melvin, and she is the community resource coordinator for the United Way, who's been doing a great job over there to in addressing some of these developments that's impacting the government shutdown, so to speak. So, April, I think you can carry on. I mean, you're.
Please lead the conversation, Brother Edward, and welcome Miss Kizzy Melvin. How are you doing, Kizzy?
Good evening. I'm doing well, and I'm so glad to be here with you all for this discussion this evening. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We really appreciate you being here with us.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great. And United Way is doing an excellent job over there, by the way. I'll start off by saying that, okay?
I appreciate that. We work as hard as we can.
Yeah, well, that's why we want you on the program, so that you can let us know what's the entail and all this hard work going on over there. And of course, you've had some prep talk with April, I guess, earlier, and some of the issues, or the primary issue was the results of the impact on. We'll just start with O'Reilly County, okay? But we should say South Carolina on the shutdown, the government shutdown, its impact on the cessation of SNAP benefits and EBT, which is critical in this area. You agree with that? So, yeah. I just mentioned your title a little bit. So if you want to give us a little bit about yourself, give some information about yourself, and see, and let's go from there. Okay.
So sure. So I am Kissy Melvin, and I'm one of the community resource coordinators for the United Way of Horry County. So what I do on my job day to day is I help individuals and families in our community. So I am able to complete benefit applications such as SNAP, TANF, Medicaid, WellVista. I provide case management services as well. Along with myself, I do have two other colleagues, Shane Merrill, which is the Crisis Intervention Community Resource Coordinator. He works with the homeless population and people who need services for recovery. And as well, we have Miss Nelvina Jones, who is the reintegration community resource coordinator. She is stationed at J. Reuben Long. So she helps the inmates get acclimated back into the community. So we have the three of us that works as a team to do everything that we can to help our community, whether it's they need to apply for benefits, they need resources, or navigating through different challenges in life that may seem very easy for a lot of us, but it's more complicated and complex for them. So we just try to make it an easy process and help them to reach their full potential in life.
Sounds great. Sounds fantastic. Well, I understand this part of the process is for recertification. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
The recertification of SNAP
participant. Yeah. Right.
So right now there has been some regulation changes with SNAP concerning SNAP benefits. Now the state has regulated the SNAP benefits that you are required to work 80 hours a month within a month, or at least 20 hours a week in order for you to receive SNAP benefits. And that ranges from the ages of 18 to 65 years old, unless you are receiving SSI benefits. That requirement does not apply to you, but it also unfortunately applies to our veterans. And so some of the regulation changes are really tough. As far as the homeless population, if they need to certify for SNAP benefits, they just have to have a statement just stating that they are homeless at that time, and they can recertify. So for example, I did a SNAP application for a client on Monday, and she is homeless. She's currently living in her car. And so I was able to write up her a letter with our letterhead on it, just stating that she's currently homeless, but I am working with her to get service and establish affordable housing. So that is acceptable for when signing up somebody for a client for SNAP benefits, so that they're able to get their benefits. So what I try to do is, when I'm completing a SNAP application, I try to put my application together so that they can get approved for it, because it can be a lengthy process. Fortunately, we do have contacts at SNAP that kind of help us sometimes to get those applications expedited. If you put your information together, such as if you're paying rent, that counts as a deduction from your income. And the deduction for your electrical bill is automatically added into those applications. So if you put that together correctly, that person will be able to receive those benefits. So for example, I had a young lady 2 weeks ago. She kept trying to apply for SNAP benefits. So I told her, okay, tell me how have you been putting the application together? I said, okay, you've been putting it together the wrong way. So I put it together for her. She got approved for $400, but just as soon as she got approved for the $400, then the government shutdown was announced. So sometimes it's just knowing how to put those applications together so that the recipient can be able to receive their benefits in a timely manner. Because if you don't turn in documents, if you don't give them the information, then they're going to send you a letter back and say, hey, we need something from your employer. So I automatically know that that when they look at your application, they want to go back and look at 3 months worth of employment. So if you used to work at Burger King and you're no longer working at Burger King, we know that we need to have some kind of statement or some kind of documentation stating that you're no longer working at Burger King. You left that job, or you were terminated, or whatever the case is. So it's all in how to put those applications together.
Wow, well, that's interesting. And I'm just hoping that people, really comprehend what you were saying. I thought it was spelled out to me, quite well. Articulated that information quite well. I'm just hoping that people grasp it to the max. So, April, you can jump in anytime you want to jump in. Yeah. So you got when you all assist in housing, are there any monetary exchanges there, or any monetary assistance, or what's your system? How do you do it?
Housing has been one of our scarce resources that we have. It's been the most difficult to navigate. And it's been because of funding reasons. There's, some organizations haven't been able to receive funding, or their fundings have been stalled, or because there's such a demand for housing resources that so many people are calling the organization and needing those resources. Those funds get depleted very, very fast. So it has been very, very difficult to navigate resources concerning housing. There are times that, we have luck with doing that, and then sometimes we don't. But it's just the reality of our world and what we're going through right now as far as our government fundings. I mean, we don't have control of that. Sometimes you can go reach out to churches, but sometimes churches are limited with their resources and what they can and they can't do, or what they may or may not have. So that can be, it's been very difficult, but we work through it as best as we can. And one thing that I try to do with all of my clients, I'm always realistic and honest with them. If this is something that I think that we can find and we can help them with, I'll let them know that. And if there's a possibility that those fundings are not there in place, I tell them that as well, because I always put myself in my client's shoes. If it were me, I would want that person that's working with me to be honest and tell me what's out there and what's not. But one thing I try to do is I try to stay on top of what resources are available. So I may call Waccamaw ELC. I may call every office. Hey, do you have funds for this? Do you have funds for electric? Do you have funds for rental assistance? Do you have funding for health and wellness, because I used to work there prior to coming to the United Way of Horry County. So, I call and I make sure, because I don't like to send clients in a circle. If I'm going to tell you to call this organization, I want to know that they have funds there available to help you. And I'll try to, kind of give them a guideline and a heads up of what information that they'll need in order to go to that organization to receive assistance. So, so we've been, it's been frustrating at times, and again, sometimes we're able to assist and sometimes we're not, but it's not up to us. And there's just some things that are just out of our control.
Yeah. They call it the runaround, which you just explained, right? Giving them the runaround.
Yeah.
So
I have this saying is, I always say, I don't like to send my clients on a dummy mission. I don't want to send you in circles, because that can be frustrating to somebody who's in need and they're already in despair. That could really be discouraging to someone. And I don't like to do that, because I wouldn't want somebody to do it to me. I know what it's like to have to reach out to get help. I've had to do it myself. I've been a SNAP recipient before. I've been a recipient of Section 8 before. So when I work with my clients every day, I know what they're going through. I know what they're experiencing. So, and that makes a difference when you've been in that place in your life yourself. Yeah,
right. So the recovery cycle, for example, from the impacts of the delay. What is the status now, by the way? Has it been signed to law? Is there any retroactivity taking place?
So I actually went up to the local DSS office today and spoke with the representative there at the local office. And I was informed, because everybody's on a schedule as to when they get their SNAP benefits. So some people get their benefits at the beginning, some get theirs in the middle, some get theirs in the end. So I was informed that everybody who is supposed to receive their SNAP benefits from the beginning up until today's date has received their SNAP benefits. However, before the SNAP benefits were actually released, we do know that that Governor McMaster had activated the 1SC fund, which was supposed to be funding that was going out to the local food pantries in the state of South Carolina to help replenish food, because of course, with every people not being able to receive their SNAP benefits, there's going to be a high demand. There's going to be a lot of people at the food banks trying to get food. So that means the food banks are going to become depleted very quickly. And so in order for them to be able to replenish their shelves, then they're going to need that funding. However, I was a little discouraged to know that even though he activated those funds, there were no immediate funds there. He also stated on his live feed that there were no money in the reserves, whatever that was, whatever those fundings was for the local food pantry. So I'm just really glad that the government shutdown is over at this point, and that, our community is able to receive their SNAP benefits. Now, one thing that I do want to add is that we know the government shutdown has to do with everything that goes on, in the White House. I can tell you from the information that I received from the local DSS office is that as of now, those funds are being released. There could possibly be another shutdown in January. However, what has happened now is that there has been funds that have been allocated. So in case in January, if there is another government shutdown, there are funds that have been allocated so that those funds have been allocated through July, from January to July, to ensure that everyone is still receiving their SNAP benefits. However, We do know that in any case, that could change for whatever reason. And that is something that
Right.
we do not have control of. But that was the information that I was giving from the local DSS office today.
I can see that right now your job is one where information is really power.
Oh, yes.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, yes. And I consider myself to be an expert and a bank of information, because in this job, you have to be that. People are depending on you. They're counting on you to have that information or the resource. And if there's a resource, I'll tell you what it is. And if there's not a resource for it, I'll tell you that there's not a resource. And I'm always, the team that I work with, we're always collaborating together every day to find resources to help our community. I have encountered several of my clients, whether in person or by phone, that were very discouraged. A lot of them were crying because they were worried about not receiving their SNAP benefits. And I think that it's imperative that everybody understands we all are not in the same financial class, if you will. All of us come from a different part of life. So, you have people who can afford everything that they need. And then you have some of us who need some help. So I want people to understand that just because somebody's receiving SNAP benefits does not mean that they're sitting back being dependent on the government. There's people that work every day. It's just that they need a little extra just to supplement. Just to supplement their income. I'll give you a perfect example. I work with what we call ALICE families, and the acronym for ALICE stands for Assets Limited, Income Constrained, but Employed. And that just means that you're working a full-time job, you're working full-time, but sometimes something can happen that interferes with you being able to make ends meet. I'll use myself, for example. I am a single mom. I am fully and solely responsible for taking care of my son and myself. And so if I have an unexpected car repair, even though I have my bills listed out every month on a budget, but say that unexpected car repair come and say it's $2,000, and I have had that happen to me before, a true story, it's going to interfere with something. It's like, am I going to pull money from rent? How much do I have in my savings? Well, I may not have an X amount of dollars in my savings, so I'm still going to have to pull money from a bill over here so that I can get that car repair done, because I need my car to get back and forth to work. An Alice family can be a husband and wife. Say they have 2 children. Well, say that husband is injured on his job, or unexpectedly he gets sick. So now he can't work. Say he does not have long-term disability or short-term disability benefits on his job. So now you're going to leave the wife. She's working and she's going to be solely responsible for taking care of all the bills and the family while that husband is sick. So that's where I can come in as the community resource coordinator. If he has some kind of, bad illness, God forbid, say if it's cancer or something of that nature, right, then at that point, I could sign him up for Medicaid, because if you can prove that you have some kind of sickness that is going to require long-term care, you can become eligible for Medicaid. And of course, there is an income requirement. There's always income requirements. But again, it's the same thing as when I put together a SNAP file. If you put together that Medicaid file properly with all the information, what this family's paying out every month, that could help you to become eligible for that benefit. So that's where we're Medicaid and you have SNAP that comes in and supplement those things when they happen, because, we all know that life happens to all of us. None of us none of us are excluded from life happening. So life can happen and you can be up today and you can be down tomorrow. So where do you turn and where do you go? And that's where you have someone like myself and my team, community resource coordinators, that can come in and provide those resources and help complete those benefits. And we're here, we use the SE Thrive system. And so that just makes it so easy for us to meet with our clients. We have our computers with us, and we're able to complete those benefit applications right on site. Make it easy, because sometimes people look at those applications and they can get more discouraged than they already are. And one thing that I like to do with my clients when they leave me, if they're feeling hopeless, I want them to be full of hope. I want them to know that they have somebody that can support them, that can provide case management services and help them to navigate through the complex applications that may be hard for them. And so that just makes life and things a little easier for our clients every day.
So, Ms. Melvin, started to say Kizzy, but I don't know if the audience wants to say that. So, exactly. Now, I wasn't familiar with this, but what's the difference between, or is there a difference between EBT and SNAP?
EBT and SNAP is the same thing. So
Okay.
Some people say, back in the day at a time, we used to say food stamps. So when you say SNAP, some people
good old day
didn't know what because they're used to being called food stamps. And SNAP means Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And so that's just pretty much the food stamps that you can apply for that those benefits that supplement, there for your income. So it's basically the same thing. There's no difference in between.
Okay, good. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So April, do you have any issues or anything you want to deal with, Ms. Melvin? Was I doing too much talking? I was not.
You're supposed to talk. You're the host. You're the host. Kissy, I'd like to know more about the local impact of the fall. I call it the fallout, but of the delay in the benefits. And I know that the promo mentioned that across South Carolina there was well over 260,000 families that were impacted. Locally, what did that look like for Horry County?
A very critical time, a time of uncertainty, a time of confusion, and a lot of people not knowing what they were going to do. So what I did, me and my colleagues on my end, what we did is we decided to put together food resource lists. We already have food resource lists, but because of the shutdown, we decided to expand those lists. I know on our website on United Way of Horry County, we put, like Low Country Food Bank, we shared where those food banks were going to be, locations and times. And we also have food resource lists that we've had readily available for anybody that we may encounter needing those resources. Because, people don't understand how important it is, how important nutrition is. The population of people who receive SNAP benefits are children, seniors, and people whom are disabled. So when we have a lack of nutrition, we take a senior citizen, for example. You have somebody that is a diabetic, and they depend on those SNAP benefits to buy the proper nutritious foods that they need for their health. That can be very detrimental, which can in turn cause an increase in hospital visits. Even people working in the grocery stores, if people don't have the community doesn't have their SNAP benefits to go into grocery stores, and the grocery stores are slow, guess what? Those workers in those grocery stores, their hours are going to be cut.
Right. So there's a lot of fringe, in terms of the actual impact. My question was more rooted in numbers. Do you know how many people in Horry County were actually receive EBT SNAP benefits? And so all of whoever's receiving them, of course, certainly were impacted by the delay.
So when I researched it, it only gave me a number for the state of South Carolina. So as of February of 2025, according to the Department of Social Services, they reported a total number of 277,065 people, 65 households that at that time in the month of February that were receiving SNAP benefits. Now that is not broken up by individuals. In 2024 in November, they reported 280,776 households were receiving SNAP benefits. And so even when we think about the number, even if we're just thinking about our state alone, that is a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And so that is a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, that's over 250,000 people who are receiving SNAP benefits in the state of South Carolina. You mentioned that children, seniors, the disabled are a part of that eligibility requirement, or that mix of people who actually receive the EBT SNAP benefits. And I think that's important to note, because there are lots of misconceptions and myths surrounding who actually receives EBT SNAP. And unfortunately, our society has, embraced some of those myths surrounding who is eligible for these benefits. And I really want to talk about that tonight, if you can. When we think about the fact that of the children, the seniors, and the disabled, obviously there's some ethnicities that and races who are actually receiving these benefits, from Black and brown people to whomever, right? There seems to be that perception that since we have a lot of immigration issues right now, there seems to be the perception that illegals are receiving EBT and SNAP benefits, and I think that people don't really understand what that means when they say that, or even if it's true. And so, can you explain what happens when you have, and let's talk about the Hispanic population, when you have a Hispanic family to approach for assistance? What are some of the things that are considered whenever you are determining whether or not they're even eligible for EBT and SNAP benefits?
Well, obviously, the first thing is that you have to take into consideration their citizenship, because that depends on a lot. Now, I had a family where, because the children were born here in the United States, they're considered citizens. So sometimes they can qualify because they have children that are citizens. Even with Medicaid, if they're not legal citizens here, they can be approved for emergency Medicaid, which is somebody going into the hospital having a baby, or they need to go into the emergency room because whatever's happened, that it is an emergency, but they are not eligible for full-on Medicaid. So a lot of the myths that people have about, people who are not legal in our country, that they're getting all these benefits. If they're getting benefits, it's because they have the credentials, and they fit the criteria and requirements just as well as citizens here have to fit those requirements and criteria to qualify for those benefits. So they are just that. They are simply myths. So they're not, and there's some of them that are getting, Just like in our culture or any culture, I mean, if they've got 5 and 6 babies and they qualify, they may get $1,500, worth of SNAP benefits. So when you go in Walmart and 2 or 3 people are pushing a buggy and it's full to the top where it's overflowing, it's because they qualified for those benefits. Everybody has to qualify.
Right. And
there's no privilege to it.
Right. And so that's what I want us to make clear tonight. And having you here as an expert in that area, it makes sense that if you have some people who have come into the United States, they have children who, because they were born in the United States, they are now considered legal citizens of the United States. The children cannot apply for SNAP, so their parents have to apply for SNAP. And it sounds, and when you say they have the proper credentials, does that mean the credentials that are tied to the children? Because obviously the parents may not be citizens. However, was there a need for them to apply for a Social Security card? Do they have visas, green cards, whatever? What does that entail for the actual parents? What are the
credentials? Because it's tied to the children. It is tied to the children. Yes. Mm-hmm. And so if you're responsible for a child under the age of 14 or you're pregnant, you qualify for SNAP benefits. Mm-hmm. So because they have those children and those children are in the age range, then they can qualify for those benefits. So where that parent may not meet that requirement because you have those children, then those children meet those requirements.
Mm-hmm. And so, thank you for that information as it pertains to our Hispanic community. And I think it's important for us to understand that the EBT SNAP benefits fallout, as Ms. Melvin said earlier, it wasn't about impacting one particular race. It actually, or group of people. It impacts anyone who actually received this assistance. And Priscilla Fuller, thank you for this information. She was able to dig a little deeper for us to try and find some information about Horry County. And there was a news article that ran that stated that in Horry County alone, there were 16,130 households that received SNAP benefits. And so at the time, Ms. Melvin, that the shutdown was looming and people were uncertain about what they would be able to do for the month of November, I'm sure your office was probably inundated with calls. You probably had to deal with a lot of questions. And once it happened, the reality really hit that these programs are in place to provide assistance. And I think there's a lot of conversation around the sustainability of programs like this, the viability of programs like this, but also the control around programs like this. And you and I talked earlier about what the reality is for people as we move into 2026 and future possibilities for shutdowns. Those possibilities centering around the fact that if it happens again, it does not mean that it's going to be fixed right away. So what can families do? Families that are dependent on this assistance, what can they do now that they know what it feels like to actually have a government shutdown that shuts off their source of food and creates that insecurity around eating? What can they do in preparation for something like this that might happen in the future?
Yes. So my advice to the community is strategize, plan, and plan. Just as I do as a single mom, and I don't receive SNAP benefits at all. And when I say strategize and plan, now that I heard somebody the other day said, oh my God, I just checked my EBT card and I've got over $1,000. If that is so, go pack your freezer with meat. Plan out your meals. Buy your essentials, things like rice, canned goods, those such things, and stock up on them. So me being somebody who does not receive SNAP benefits, when I look at my bills that I have to pay every month and I have X amount of dollars sitting here, what I do is I go to the store, I go to the meat locker in Conway, I'll buy packs of hamburger meat, chicken, all those sorts of things. So if we're running low, if funds are running low, because that's just life, things are running low, I have everything in my home to make a meal for spaghetti. I would suggest making things like spaghetti, casserole, things that you can make in a batch where you can have leftovers for a couple of days. You know, some people even believe in, you know, if you don't eat all your spaghetti right now or your greens or whatever, you can freeze them and then you can take them out at a later time. You got to strategize. You got to stock some of your things up that you know that you're going to have, and especially when you know you have a big family. It's coming to a time where, as we talked about earlier, April, where, you know, sometimes too, we got to level up.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do differently in your life where you're not in a place where you do have to depend on? It's nothing wrong with getting benefits, SNAP, Medicaid, those things if you need them. There's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with that. But what we're starting to see, the reality in our world, is that some of the things that we depend on, this, and they're very essential to our lives and our livelihood, is that there's a great possibility that some of those essentials may not be there for us.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it? What is it that you can do? You know, there came a day in my life where, you know, I made the choice to go back to school and get a higher education so that I could get a better paying job. You know, and I don't have a PhD, but I can tell you I'm in a better place today than I was 3 years ago. And sometimes we have to think about those things as well, because if we don't have things like Medicaid and SNAP, what do you do then? And so it just comes to where we have to strategize and plan. So I'll tell everybody, while you do have your SNAP benefits right now, use them wisely. You guys know what I'm trying to say without saying it. Use them wisely. Because there's somebody like me that don't have it. When I go in the store, I got to spend cash money. Use your benefits wisely. You know, just like I say, stockpile what you can. I know last month when I went in the grocery store, I bought like 30 cans. I bought 30 canned goods and put them up in my cabinet. Food Lion has that brand, and I'm not going to say it right, and everybody's going to laugh at me. But you know, when you go in Food Lion, they have those canned goods that even have vegetable oil that have those orange labels on it. It's called like Cha-Cha something, funny name, but it's the cheaper brand. So where those canned goods will run you about 64 cents. I remember looking at it when I went into the grocery store. Whereas if you get one of the other name brands, Jolly Green Giant or whoever, they're like $1.19. Well, I bought that cheaper brand and I bought like 30 canned goods. Get those canned goods while you can, because if it shut down, if for some reason we don't have access to our bank accounts or whatever, guess what? You got those canned goods. You have those canned goods up there in the cabinet. And so you really got to strategize and plan with your benefits. And I can't stress enough to use them wisely. In some of our communities, we do have community gardens. I know in Georgetown, they have a community garden. If in your local area, if there's a community garden that you can go to, you know, to get greens, fresh vegetables, and those sort of things, go to your community gardens. And
do exactly what you said. Go to the community gardens, get the fresh fruits and vegetables, freeze them. You know, sometimes you get fresh fruits and vegetables and you can't really eat them all at one time, but you know, you can definitely prepare those things for later use. And I want to make this point for anyone who's watching and thinking about what you're saying. This is not about being judgmental. It's not about, calling people out and trying to tell them how to live. It's about educating people on making the best choices for the resources that they have. And I volunteer at a local food bank, And one of the things that I noticed during that time of the shutdown was that people who were coming into the food bank, number one, were doing exactly what you described. The single moms who came in, who had, multiple children or whatever, they were trying to figure out how to stretch the food that they were getting out of the food bank. One thing that people don't understand is that some of these food banks are actually tied to your ability to get EBT and SNAP. They're going to interview you for the requirements. They're going to interview you to assess the requirements and then determine how much food you can get based on your family size. And so, the entire fallout has implications for just about everything that is rooted in food security and, any supplies or things that you're able to purchase with your SNAP benefits. And so that's why it's important for families to just educate themselves. And I think that there are community resources and programs out there that actually teach people how to budget, how to prepare nutritious meals, how to, even do some of the things that you're talking about as far as preparing foods for future use. And it's important that families take advantage of those things as well. So I think all that's good advice. And thank you, Gloria Wilson, for, sharing the encouraging words. She's right. It's excellent advice as far as what you were giving tonight. One of the things that I definitely want us to dig into as well is, the unfortunately, the diabolical side of what's going on with EBT SNAP, aside from anything that's going on with the government, is the fact that EBT cards, so SNAP cards that you use, you shared with me earlier that they can be hacked. So you got the one thing on one hand where you're worrying about whether or not you're going to get your funds. Then once you get your funds, people aren't aware that those cards can be hacked. So tell us a little bit about what's going on with EBT fraud and scammers or either hackers who are able to get access to people's funding. That is incredible to me.
Yeah, so some of you may be aware and some of you may not be aware, but I'm here to make you aware this evening. So we've got what we call the disappearing SNAP benefits, the vanishing SNAP benefits. And what that means is that, so I've had several clients whom, they check their SNAP benefits that morning. You got $293. You check it 6 o'clock in the morning. Those benefits have hit on your day to get your benefits. By the time you go to the grocery store, you get in the checkout line with your SNAP card, it declines because your benefits are gone. Well, let me tell you, I had it happen to several of my clients. And it has been happening a lot where the SNAP benefits have been disappearing from the SNAP cards. I had a woman call me one day. She had went into the DSS office because her SNAP benefits vanished. As a matter of fact, it was $1,500 worth of SNAP benefits. And she was on the other end of the phone crying because she had 5 kids and her SNAP benefits were gone. And if this happens to you, unfortunately, the federal government did not allocate funds, or the federal government did not disperse any funds to the scamming and fraud department of social services. So what that means is if your SNAP benefits disappear from your card, they cannot be replaced. They're just gone. And so that has been another issue. One of my clients that it happened to, I made it a point to meet with him that day. And so we met at the Palmetto Goodwill. That's one of our partners down in Market Commons. And so I met with him there. And I asked him, I said, do you have the Connect EBT portal? He said, no. So just as the community resource coordinator, my job is to help him navigate through something he didn't know how to navigate. So I got his phone. We added the app, the Connect EBT app, to his phone. And when I logged on to there, his benefits were used at a farmer's market in New York.
And he's in South Carolina. He's in Horry County.
He's here in Horry County, in Myrtle Beach. Everybody that I talked to that had their SNAP benefits vanish, those benefits had not been taken from anybody here locally. It was somewhere up north. They've been taking them left and right. Now, how they're getting the information, I don't know. This particular client that I dealt with, it happened 1 month, so he canceled that card, had him a new card sent. So by the time his benefits for the next month was coming, he would have a new card. He did that, changed PIN number. They got the benefits that time. He did the same thing the third month. The benefits disappeared again. So I have this card here. I don't know if you guys, how well you can see
hold it up a little bit. Yeah, that's great right there.
Okay. And it says, I got this from the local DSS office where it says, protect your SNAP EBT benefits. And if you see right here, that green logo, it says Connect EBT.
That's the mobile.
It's a mobile. Yes, it's a mobile app. If you don't have it, you need to get it tonight, like right now. You need to download it to your phone. We know we have seniors and people who are disabled, who's not savvy enough with our modern day technology. Please help your neighbors, your friends, your grandparents, your family, friend, whoever it is. Help them to download this app. And you lock your card just the same way as you can do on a mobile app, like we do with our debit cards. So you can go in your local DSS office and you can get this card. And it has on the back, it also has a QR code where you can
hold it still right there. Yeah, because someone may be able to scan it. Perfect. Okay.
And you can go, you need to download that mobile app on your phone, and you need to lock your card. I'm telling you, I'm warning you, I'm making you aware. Lock your card, because there are scammers, there are phishers, whatever they call them. If you go to use your EBT card and you notice the machine that you go to swipe your card, if it seems like it's not stable, I wouldn't use it, because that could mean that somebody has tampered with that machine to fish your numbers and your information. But unfortunately, there's some people out there, scammers, and people that are so smart that they figure out ways to get your information. And we know now, even since COVID, somebody came up with a brilliant idea. And I think it's a brilliant idea that you can do online shopping and then just go to the grocery store and pick up your groceries. Well, guess what? It's not that they're going in, these people that are getting your information, it's not that they're actually walking into a grocery store to steal those benefits. They're doing it online. So they're making
possible. Yeah.
So
it's possible that they're fake sites and things like that. And I think too, I don't know if people are receiving information via email, but you really have to be careful about how you click on links and emails that are sent to you, especially ones that may have language that sounds familiar or may seem that, like it's coming from DSS or your representative or whoever you're dealing with. It's best that people actually question everything when it comes down to emails, because you can click on a link, put in your information, and you have given them everything they need to hack your card. Same thing with a phone call. I mean, people will call and act like they're calling from DSS or whatever, ask you a few qualifying questions, and the next thing you know, they have your information. You just have to be really careful.
So how do you lock your card? You said lock your card. How do you do that? I mean,
so once you create the portal, put all your information and you have the portal on your phone, just like when you go on your mobile banking, You go on your mobile banking, there's a feature on there where you can lock your card. So, and if you want your card locked, you can just leave it locked and then you unlock it when you get ready to make a purchase, whether it's online or you going in the store. You do the same exact thing with your SNAP card. You go on that portal and you lock that card. And I'm warning everybody because I've seen people on my Facebook friend list and everything, and people saying, hey, I had my SNAP benefits and they're gone. And I'm thinking, oh my God, they've gotten another one. And I mean, you can go to the local DSS office and you can raise Cain, but unfortunately, it's not their fault. And there's absolutely nothing that they can do about it because we don't have there's no funding in place to replace those stolen benefits. So while you're able to get your benefits, please, 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 everybody, go download that Connect EBT app and lock your card. Please lock your card.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing I'd like to make sure the audience understands about the EBT balances as well. So in October was when we were finding out shut down, may not get benefits for November, etc. But if you had benefits on your card, those benefits were not impacted by the shutdown. They still had access to those benefits. Is that correct? Or
absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then those benefits, do they roll over month to month? If you don't use all of your benefits in October, does it roll over to November, or how does that work?
Yes, those benefits roll over. They don't just if you left $20 on there from last month and then you get your $200 for the next month, the money is combined on there. So it's still on there. Yeah, if you don't use it, it's on there. Yes.
Yeah. So it just sounds like there's a lot of opportunity for education here. There's a lot of opportunity for, and I don't know what programs United Way offers, or even, any other organizations that deal with food insecurity or just, education, public education in general. But it sounds like to me, this is a great opportunity for the United Way, for DSS or whomever, to really make sure that information is being pushed out on how people can prepare for the unexpected, because the government shutdown, lasting as long as it did, was totally unexpected. The government shutdown was unexpected, period. But to last as long as it did, and then, there literally had to be an act of Congress to get it open and going again. That's the kind of thing that, we could have still been in that shutdown. And when I tell you that food pantry cupboards were bare, there were tons of community efforts to gather food, to fill food banks. Churches were doing community food drives. Communities were doing food drives. People were doing, like meal drives, come by and get a dinner, that kind of thing. And I think it's great that the community can rally around, causes like this to support, but it shouldn't be when it's a crisis. These are things that the community should be doing anyway, just to help supplement some of the resources that are out there, because you have organizations like your Low Country food banks and your Second Harvest food banks, and smaller organizations that are actually beneficiaries of those food drives, like your Shepherd's Table and other places that are doing their best to actually feed the hungry. And the hungry does not necessarily mean, like you said earlier, someone who just does not have anything. The hungry could be me, you, Brother McQueen, and we just don't have enough money for dinner to feed our families or whatever. I've seen it happen before. You can't judge a book by its cover. I've seen a person pull up in a brand new Cadillac to the Shepherd's Table with her family, and they needed a meal. And it's because life, like you said, life happened, and we don't know what her circumstance was. She might have been in the midst of a divorce or something crazy, might have lost her job or whatever, and now she's still trying to make ends meet. So you can't judge a book by its cover. You really have to consider that everybody is, a lot of us are one paycheck away from being in need of a EBT or a SNAP benefit. Some of us just, things just happen. And this is the kind of information that we have to continue to push out into the community so that people will be aware of what the fallout could be in the event that shutdowns happen, but just not only just shutdowns, just things can happen. Things can happen So, this is great information that you share with us tonight. And, the mission and the purpose of this particular show was really to, kind of put on display some of the things that were, the impacts of the government shutdown, what people need to be aware of. I think you've covered a lot of wonderful things in terms of, creating this awareness around the fact that, yes, this could happen again. Because if I'm not mistaken, even what's happened so far to get us out of the shutdown really is only covering us until January 2026. And it could very well happen again. And so we just need to be mindful. And if there's an opportunity for organizations or individuals in our local community, Horry County, if there's opportunities for us to collaborate and help, then, I think that, we should try to create these initiatives to do what we can. Nothing is too little, So from the standpoint of the United Way, what would the United Way say to the community as far as how the community can help?
Is we just, just what you say, like we all have to get together and rally and collaborate and do everything that we can do to help each other. And even, aside of United Way, I think the lesson of this, there's a lesson in this for all of us, is that we're living in a time where we need to come together. Mm-hmm. Our communities are where we live. Our communities are where we raise our children, where we have our family reunions. These are our units. And your community doesn't mean that it has to be your blood family. It can just be your neighbor next door. If there is something that and I want to leave this thought, if there is something that you can do to help somebody else, please do it, because we need it. People often talk about the Hispanics, how they'll all live in one house together, and they'll put all their foods together, and they'll eat together and make sure everybody eat well. They talk about the Hispanics, but I'm telling you, that's something that we all need to do, because some of us don't do it. Some of us know that we got a family over here. We got family members that we know we could go take them a meal, or, take them a pack of meat or something, and you won't even do it. I remember during COVID, my grandparents, they're going to be with the Lord now, but when they were living during COVID, when I went around to the food banks, and when I was able to get SNAP benefits during that time, because I was one of those ones that lost my job and got unemployment for the very first time ever in my life, I made sure I got boxes of food and supplies, and I took it to my grandparents and dropped it off on their porch. Mm-hmm. Help somebody else. This is not a time for us to be selfish. This is not a time for us to make fun of each other. We know that food costs are everything's going up. Food cost of food is going up. Gas is going up. If you can help somebody else, please help somebody else. It's not even the burden on just organization. It's the burden of us as a community. I have a church. Maybe you have a church. Maybe Mr. McQueen has a church. This is a time the churches need to come out, and we need to help, our communities. I know my church has a food bank. There's a lot of churches out there that have food banks. If you can go to your local food bank, I go to the food banks,
I personally believe every church should have a food bank, and even the local college or Georgetown Tech has food pantries for students, just in case they, come up short or need something or whatever. And it's, there's discretion that's used in it, so no one feels, some kind of way about getting that assistance. But every church should have a food pantry, and and so it's just amazing to me how, like you said, there's some major lessons here, some grand opportunities for the community to step up and make sure that they're taking care of either their own, or at least, they're able to extend some help to surrounding communities, even like the radius around your church, as an example, is an area that you should be embracing and inspired to help. Yeah. So there's one question before we go. I know we just have a few minutes. As I was scrolling through, Priscilla Fuller asked this a little bit earlier. With changes in some of the regulations, have there been any new restrictions on how SNAP benefits can be utilized? That's a good question, because I know there was some conversation around, restricting families from purchasing, like, certain beverages or candy or whatever the case is. So are there any restrictions on how the benefits can be used?
There has been a lot of talk about restricting, like where you can't buy sodas, for example, or you can't buy, junk food such as chips or candy. And I know there's been a lot of talk. Well, you definitely can't do that, but there's been a lot of talk about restrictions, and to my knowledge, those restrictions have not been put in place here. Okay. I think there's some states where it has been, but no, there's not at this time. There's not any restrictions, but we know that when our kids come home from school, they like to get a bag of chips or Cheez-Its or or whatever.
Or the little jugs. Who doesn't like the little jugs? Kids love the little jugs.
Something to hold them over, but until we get dinner cooked and all those things. And I mean, that and little animal cook. Kids love goldfish. Kids love those things. However, if those restrictions are ever put in place, I mean, I wouldn't be alarmed, because my thing is, if you could still go buy a steak, you can buy a pack of chicken, or you can buy your meats and your essentials. To me, that is the main thing, because we can take those things and make a meal. You can still buy your fresh vegetables, your canned goods. So if that is ever in place, I don't think that's something people should panic about. You just know that you can't buy those things on your SNAP card. But, as our community, we just need to come together and look out for each other. If somebody needs $20, to go buy a pack of rice or 2 or 3 canned goods or whatever, please do it. And also tap into your these mobile apps where there's a lot of couponing. Use your coupons. Find out what's on sale that you can get on sale. I use, as a single mom, I'm always trying to find out what I can do to save $1. So I have, some people know about this and some people don't, and they've been doing it for several years now. Food Line has Shop and Earn, and I put all my girlfriends on it. So you have Shop and Earn. So for example, on your Shop and Earn, if you buy $25 worth of meat, it's going to give you $3. So that means the next time you go in to make your purchase, you're going to get $3 off of your grocery bill. I have used my Shop and Earn. They have it in every category. They have it in your drinks, your snacks, your cleaning supplies. I mean, they have different categories. So I use my Shop and Earn, plus I clip coupons. And there's been time I've gone into Food Line and used my Shop and Earn, and I only had to pay $2. I've had sometimes where I didn't have to pay anything. So all the resources that you can use, from couponing apps, locking your EBT card, your SNAP card, all those things, utilize those tips to help you in those times. And I can't stress enough, please help somebody if you can help them. Please. If you know they need, I heard Reverend Spain say one Sunday, if you got $20 and you know somebody needed, help them. Because it's them today and it can be you tomorrow. So be mindful. Let's come together as a community, especially in such critical times, and let's help one another, and we'll all get through it. We'll all get through it.
So April, were we lucky tonight, weren't we, to have her?
Well, absolutely.
Wonderful kind of information. Man.
Yeah, Yeah, wonderful information, Kissy. We thank you so much. And not only just for, sharing the information, but being very candid and bringing that, realistic side to the conversation. A lot of times we're afraid to, put the real out there because we're representing. But you are a community resource coordinator. So when you're out in the community, you are talking to people about how to deal with real life, and it shows in the way that you delivered the message tonight. And we really appreciate it. We appreciate Brother Richard Williams for suggesting you. He was like, I know the person. Kissy Mel. She's the best person for the job. And he was right. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. And I'm going to put that banner back up. And even if you aren't on, if you're not receiving assistance, you may know someone who does. Remember, children, the elderly, and the disabled are the three main categories of people who are receiving these benefits. So especially if you know of a senior person or elderly person who may not understand what it means to protect their SNAP EBT benefits, help them out with this Connect EBT mobile app. Even if you're the one who has to lock it for them and unlock it for them, help them. Show them what it's all about. Talk to them about it. I know a lot of seniors are a little reluctant because they really don't understand the technology pieces. But as a community, that's one way that we can help, is to, educate them or be a guide for them as they navigate this. Because the worst case scenario is that we don't help and then they're subject to this EBT fraud or scam. So thank you again, Kissy, for all that you shared with us tonight. We really appreciate it. And to our viewers tonight, we thank you for all the questions and comments. It was great to see you be a part of the conversation. Next week, Brother Edward, who do we have with us next week?
Next week, now we've got a wonderful young man who's been with us before. He had gotten so much feedback on his last visit with us. Had to have him again. This time he's coming back with a different topic. The topic's on the prepping of the certain foods that could ward off diabetes. Diabetes is pretty prevalent in our neighborhoods, in our community, and 1 and 2, I guess. But he's going to come here with this information, and he's doing his literary research. I'm going to get to that. He's doing a very, very good literary research, and his name is Christian Newman. Okay, Mr. Christian Newman will be with us next week, same time, 7 p.m.
Exactly, 7 p.m. And so please stay tuned. Of course, this broadcast will be available for viewing on wcmagazine.net for the next week. So, grab a link to it, send people to the website. They need to hear this message if they were unable to hear it tonight. We certainly do appreciate your support in sharing the videos that come after our broadcast. And I can say that over the past few weeks, our viewership has ticked up significantly. We've had some great topics, and we want to continue to educate the community with great information, such as what Kissy Melvin shared with us tonight. So if you have an idea, if you have a topic that you would like for us to cover or explore, please reach out to us via the World Community Magazine Facebook page. You can hit me up on my Facebook page, send us a message through the website. If you are someone who's watching and you want to be a guest on the show, you can certainly let us know. Kissy, we plan to have you back. Please know that. Yep. Because I'm sure that there's some wonderful things that you're doing on behalf of the United Way. And anytime you have great information you want to share, you have my number. Just hit me up, and we'd be more than happy to have you on the show. So we'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight, and we will see you. Can you believe that Thanksgiving is next week?
Next week. I can't wait.
I feel like November just got here like two minutes ago, and we blinked, and next week is Turkey Day. That's crazy. Wow. So that Christian show is going to be on time so that he can tell you how to
get prepared for that Thursday.
Right. Get prepared for Thursday. So. Yeah,
and I want to thank you all for having me on this show. I am Kissy Melvin, the Community Resource Coordinator for the United Way of Horry County, coming to you with information that you need to know. And remember, Give where you live. Thank you.
Love that.
Wow.
Give where you live.
Wow.
I love that. Give where you live.
Can you go to her network? Did you tell about the network?
About the network? I think
Yeah,
she's a member of the network, if I'm not mistaken. If you're not a member of the network group, I'll be sure to invite you so that you can pop in good information into that group as well.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We appreciate you, and God bless. Have a good rest of the week, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Godspeed.
All right.
Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook.